Being homeless is weird because the rules change for you just based on the fact that you're homeless. I know I'm not talking from experience, thankfully. I'm not homeless, but I have friends who are. Like this friend. Being homeless is weird because you're allowed to fall asleep in the grass if you put a bottle of water and a container of watermelon next to your backpack. People think you're just sunbathing. But if you bring a shopping cart or a blanket, the cops get called. You're only allowed to rest in public if you can prove you're employed or sheltered. Do you see how that doesn't make sense? Do you see how that's eugenic? You're only allowed to rest, which is vital and necessary for everyone. And you're only allowed to exist in public, only allowed to rest in public, only allowed to exist in public, if you can prove that you're participating in the capitalism correctly. If you are capable of participating in the capitalism correctly. Capitalism is eugenic. And that's why homelessness is a death sentence. 60% more likely to die if you're unsheltered or unstably sheltered than if you are stably sheltered. 60%. Because when you get to the point where you don't have shelter, you don't have the money for shelter, you probably don't have the money for a lot of other things. And then you're also dealing with a lot of stress. Like just one example off the top of my head. You're literally not allowed to rest. Again, rest is vital. Rest is necessary. Rest is like food and water and shelter. We need it to survive. Rest is just one example of how capitalism robs us of our humanity, especially when we're poor and multiply marginal. Because a white person on a blanket in a park is not going to draw as much attention necessarily as a person of color on a blanket in a park. And then we could talk about, hygiene, which is also compounded with ableism. So anti-poverty and anti-disability kind of comes together, pushing down people who don't conform, people who can't conform, because they can't access shelter, so how could they access a shower? Or they're too disabled to work, so maybe they're too disabled to shower. Or they're too disabled to work, so they're unhoused, so they can't access a shower. So why do we shame people for things they can't help? Oh, right, because the propaganda tells us that we can help it. You can't help if you're disabled or chronically ill, especially in a colonial, capitalist, white supremacy culture, where every day people look at each other and decide that somehow they're not fitting the standard. They're not living up to the conformity enough, the white supremacist ideal. They're not blue-eyed, skinny, Christian, straight. They're not employed. And it trickles down, it's not just about Aryanness. Eugenics is about deciding that some people are worthy of survival and some aren't. And it's cultural and systemic. There may not be a lot you feel like you can do about the systemic part. And that's valid. It's a big ask. A lot is gonna have to change. And before it can, a lot is gonna have to go away. Fresh start. But something that you can do tangibly in the moment is help people like my amazing friend who happens to be homeless. They took time out of their day, their hourly struggle to survive, to go over to a friend's apartment who is bedbound, help them get their mail, and help them get chores done that haven't been done in months because this other friend has been abandoned by the people who should be taking care of them. Because something if you are disabled, chronically ill, somehow not conforming to the capitalist eugenic standard, people go away really fast, and a lot of them. But something you learn in mutual aid circles is that there are also people who will show up. My friend is disabled, chronically ill, and living on the streets of New York. A non-binary person during Pride, just struggling to survive. In the city where Pride started. Pride was mutual aid too. Pride was fighting back and resisting fascism, violent eugenics, sticking up for vulnerable communities, whatever it takes. Sometimes the violence isn't police raiding a gay bar. Sometimes the violence is marginalized people dying on the street. And it's not a brick that you throw. It's a wallet that you open, a dollar that you spare, a story that you share, and a human that you help keep alive. I'm gonna link this wish list in my link tree. You can help my friend get survival supplies. You can help keep somebody alive. Despite violent, eugenic, fascistic capitalism, you can make a difference, but only if you want to. If you think it's senseless that a homeless person isn't allowed to rest in public, spend what you can spare and spare them